Hello friends, today we're going to be discussing Mofi versus Mofi versus Starlink. This is your captain speaking. We have been studying gaseous anomalies throughout the northwestern United States, though I have a suspicion it was those lima beans. This is the 10th video in our series of mobile internet because we travel full-time in an RV, but it also applies to rural internet as well. For those folks out there in the country that aren't getting much of a signal, how do you get your internet? How do you get your high speed? We have continued to grow our experience in this area, and we have a lot to share with you. Now, Mofi was gracious enough to send me their 5G router. And you look at this and you're like, well, what's the difference between this one and this one? Now, they do have 6 different routers that are similar, just like this, in their business class services. We're dealing with these 2 model numbers, the Mofi 5500 5G XE LTE. One of them is a 4G router, which is the EM760. And the 5G version of that is RM520. Now, the model numbers are important because, like I said, there are 6 different versions of these routers, and they all do different things. And when you look at these routers, it's hard to tell them apart. They look exactly the same. And to be honest, when you look at the internal settings, they both do basically the same exact thing. The firewall's the same, their ability to load balance, everything is the same. The only thing that differentiates these 2 models is that one can do 5G and one is 4G. The thing about these models is they both take 5 bands and combine them into one super band. Basically, a lot of these types of routers might have 1 or 2 bands that they pull off of a cell tower and combine them into one signal, but both of these routers take the 5 fastest bands. It may be off of multiple towers if you're in an area where there are a lot of towers. First of all, they function like any other router. You've got your WAN input, you've got all your outputs, which you can send to different devices. This has a USB input. It also has a DC input to power this thing if you're so inclined, but of course you have your regular power input. These wider flaps on the outside are the incoming signal from your cell carrier. These skinnier antennas are the antennas that send out the Wi-Fi signal in your RV or your home or wherever you might have this. These routers also have the ability to replace these antennas with cables, and you can run them outside and attach an antenna to your fence post or the top of your RV so you can even get a faster signal. So what we're going to do is a few tests with both of these routers and Starlink. We want to compare them. We're going to basically compare the 5G signal versus the 4G signal with the Mofi routers, and then we're going to do a couple of Zoom calls with the Mofi router and with Starlink to see if there's a difference with latency and ping and all the things that come along with bringing data in and sending it out. First, I want to say one thing. I'm not getting paid by anybody for this. I will say Mofi Networks did send me the 5G router and asked me to review it, and we're working with a company called Rural 4G, which offers SIM card data services for a monthly fee, and they did send us 2 SIM cards, one for each Mofi, in order for us to test these routers. Matter of fact, Rural 4G is offering a special deal to our listeners. Here's how it goes. If you're in an area where your address can only pull 4G LTE signals, they're offering a 300 gigabyte package with speeds of up to 80 megabits per second down for $90 a month. If you are living in an area where your registered address does pull in 5G signals, and this goes for city folks as well, they're offering an unlimited package download speeds with up to 100 megabits per month for $90 a month, or an unlimited data package with speeds of up to 200 megabits per second for $120 a month. You'll need to use the promo code CAPTAIN in order to get the deal. We actually did an interview with Rob Loud, the CEO of Rural 4G. I'll put a link up above, but it's very insightful about how this industry is changing, how it's growing, and what the future of this industry looks like. For example, there are many companies that resell SIM card data services where you can bring your own router, and rural 4G is no different. I would say the biggest difference is a company like rural 4G is legitimate. They're actually striking deals directly with the carriers. There's no funny business going on. So it's a legitimate service, and this type of thing is going to grow more and more and more in popularity. It's going to provide competition to the legacy internet service providers that are in neighborhoods throughout the country. This type of technology is going nowhere but up. All right, so let's break this down a little further. The reason why a business class router like this and a SIM card combination are really effective, let's say even if you just live in the middle of the city, you're probably paying $120 a month for your internet already. Well, you could actually replace it with a router like this, get really fast speeds. You're not going to have any trouble streaming movies. It's going to be unlimited. But let's say you're going out of town. You're a businessman. You're going to go to a hotel. They got crappy internet. You can use your router. Take it with you. Or maybe you're a weekend warrior with your RV, or you just travel in your RV a couple months a year for vacations. You can take your router with you, and you can take it back home and plug it in, and you're only paying $120 a month all the way through the whole process. So really, this is a very viable technology, and as technology gets better and better, these types of services are going to get better and better. We're already starting to see that. I'd like to discuss 5G a little further because some people may not understand 5G. They think it's all one thing. Well, that's not true. There's two types of 5G. There's one called sub-6, and there's one that is called mmWave. Now, the mmWave is the future. That's the big 5G that's going to come, and you're going to have all kinds of frequencies and bands that you can operate on. Most 5Gs, 90% of 5G networks are all going to be sub-6. What does that mean? So on a 4G network, you have bands from 0 to 2,000 megahertz. So the 4G operates in that arena. So when you have a 4G router like this one here that's pulling 5 bands, it'll pull the 5 fastest bands under 2,000 megahertz. A sub-6 5G router means that you're pulling bands up to 6,000. So anywhere from 0 to 6,000 megahertz, you're going to pull the 5 fastest bands. So that 5G window is basically going from that 2,000 to that 6,000. That's why they call it sub-6. Most 5G networks, your phones, everything is working off that. And the reason why is because it's much easier for these companies to go out and basically retrofit their existing towers to allow that sub-6 signal. It's still fast. It's very fast, actually. And we're going to find out in this video just how fast it is. For the sake of keeping the tests equal, I'm going to test both Mofi routers from this window right here, and I'm going to hardwire them directly to my computer. The reason why we buy the window is because that's where you're going to get the best signal, because this is a tin can and signals bounce around, but you want to get a clear signal in. And then I'm going to run a hardwire directly to the computer, and that's how we're going to get our speed test.
We will be testing our Mofi routers with Verizon SIM cards provided by Rural 4G. We stayed in beautiful Colorado for the summer, and this is where we started our testing. We had a very fast 4G service, but there was no 5G available. We wanted to see if the 5G modem would still pick up faster speeds, and it did. The 5G modem was definitely edging out the 4G router. Not by much though. The speeds were consistent and reliable. Starlink has been amazing for us on this journey. There have been a few occasions when we had zero cell coverage, but Starlink is always there with really great speeds. Our second test in Roswell, New Mexico had 5G signal. After we got done playing with the aliens, we started our testing. Both Mofi routers and Starlink were pulling great speeds. As you can see, the 5G router was outpacing the 4G router quite a bit. These types of speeds will also stream live TV. Starlink is pulling a great signal, but it is not consistent enough to stream live TV without buffering. This does cause me strife, particularly during football season.
For the sake of the Zoom interviews, Miss Sinclair will be in here on a laptop hardwired to the 5G Mofi, and then I will go from the Mofi to the Starlink, and that's how we're going to do the interviews. What do you think? Miss Sinclair?
Yes, I am arrived and ready for duty.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Yes, I have work to do. I'm very busy.
Welcome, Captain. It's so nice to meet you.
Miss Sinclair, I do declare, you are one beautiful woman.
Well, thank you so much. You're very handsome yourself, sir. So I'm so glad that you were able to join me for this meeting. I just wanted to get a little bit more information about you. I have your resume right here, and I see that you're very, very skilled. Can you just give me a little bit more information about you as a person? What do you like to do? What are your hobbies? Where do you see yourself in a few years?
Okay, well, I like to do a lot of different things. I love to cook. I love the water. I had a boat for many years. In fact, where I see myself in several years is on some kind of a super yacht sailing the high seas, somewhere in a warm climate, island to island. That would be ideal. Who knows if it'll happen? But yeah, I just I kind of I've started so many different businesses in my life, anything from lawn service to making hot sauce. I do a lot of tech things, video production and computers and consulting, a lot of things along those lines. So I've done quite a bit. I'm pretty adventurous, and I want to just continue adventuring for the rest of my life, really.
Well, I appreciate you so much for this little interview. Thank you for joining me. It was very nice meeting you. Good getting to know a little bit more about you. And
Sure.
I will be in touch with you in the near future.
I hope you're in touch with me.
Thanks. Have a good day. Well, hello again, Mr. Captain. I'm so glad that you were able to join me again. I did have some follow-up questions for you.
Sure. Lay it on me. I like your scenery back there.
Oh, yeah, I'm chilling at the beach today.
That's my kind of life right there. So what do
Absolutely.
you got for me?
All right. So you said that you dabbled in a little bit of web design, and I wanted to know a little bit more about RAM and your hard drive and how all that ties together.
Well, I can tell you this. I always have plenty of RAM, and I would love to show you my hard drive.
Okay. So can you explain to me what RAM is? You didn't really.
Yes, I can. RAM, let's put it this way. Your hard drive is like your filing cabinet, and that's where you store data on your computer, and you can open that file cabinet up and pull the manila folder out and then put it on your desk and blah, blah, blah. Now, the RAM is your desk size. So the RAM basically is how much can you pull out of your filing cabinet from your hard drive, put it all over your desk. So the bigger your desk space is, the more activities you can have going on at any given time.
So you mean to tell me that you have a lot of RAM and a lot of hard drive? That's how you're able to travel all over this country?
Well, I don't know if that's how I travel over this country, but it sure helps, I guess.
I like that. I need you to come and show me what that RAM and that hard drive is all about. I need you to join my team, sir. I think I really
So I'm
want to go
hired?
with you.
Perfect.
You're the one. You are the one.
All right, sounds good. I cannot wait to meet you in person, Miss Sinclair.
Congratulations, Mr. Captain. You are the one.
Hey friends, if you really like the content we're putting together here, then you know the deal. I can go on, blah, blah, blah. It helps us, the algorithms, and all that's true. But if you truly do dig what we're doing, it does take a lot of effort to put these together, and we would sure love your support. So please consider liking and sharing, commenting on what we're doing. We always love to hear from the people out there. What can I say? Like it, share it, have a wonderful day. So now I want to talk about 3 more things. I want to talk about the problems Starlink has with live data. I want to talk about the idea if you're choosing to go with a SIM card data plan, how do you choose the right provider? And lastly, but not least, everybody has this burning question on their minds. If I had to choose between Starlink and cell card SIM data with my Mofi router, if I had to choose between both, what would I choose? During the Zoom interviews, we did notice that Starlink was glitching. It did not translate in the final recording of the video, but that is what happens. So that begs the question, why does Starlink buffer? Why does it catch? What's going on, even with live TV? And you know, it may not be this way for regular Starlink customers that have the full stationary at-home program, but when you're doing the Starlink roaming, you do have less of a priority than everybody else. So in our situation with the RV and traveling and roaming, we are going to have basically less priority when it comes to data from Starlink. But that's not necessarily the problem, because we do get a lot of download data, and many times we get more speed from the Starlink than we do with the Mofi routers. So what's really going on here? Well, let me show you. When I'm doing speed testing, you see these two numbers here. These two numbers represent upload latency and download latency. And what is latency? Latency is basically how fast data can pass from one network to another. So in the case of Starlink, it comes from the router, goes out to the dish, goes all the way up into space to the satellite, then comes back down to the dish, and then over to the router. So the amount of time that it takes for data to pass through all those channels is what's called latency. Starlink basically fluctuates wildly when it comes to latency. Sometimes you're getting a real high number and a low number. So when you're streaming something, for example, that's not live, the streaming channel, whether it's Netflix or Hulu, can adjust, and it can basically set out a stream that works within those parameters. However, when you're doing live TV, it cannot anticipate those wild fluctuations. Same thing if you're gaming or doing a Zoom meeting or whatever you're doing that requires real-time interaction, you're going to have some buffering and issues with Starlink. That's just the way it is. Now on the SIM card data, it's stable. That data beams to the tower and back, and boom, it's a done deal. It doesn't have to go all the way to space and back and whatever else. So the latency, both on upload and download speeds, are much more favorable when you're using cell card SIM data. If you so decide to go with cell card SIM data for your internet connection, there are a multitude of companies that offer this. We talked about Rural 4G earlier, and I do like them. They're a great option for a multitude of reasons, but whatever company you choose, and there are a lot of them, and I think when you look at all the different plans, so I can see the difference of what they're offering compared to what I need, but you may not understand it all. So we're going to go through some things that you want to look for. One of the first things you need to ask that company is, or you need to figure out or do some research, because a lot of them aren't going to be forthcoming, are they working directly with the carriers? A lot of these companies, they do. They get SIM cards they shouldn't have. They're kind of trying to float the system, trick the carriers, and that is the case for sure. Some big companies that you've seen all kinds of advertisements, that's the kind of stuff that they do. So you want to make sure that your company you're working with is a legitimate company and they're actually working with the carriers. That way, you're not going to be in the middle of a show and get cut off because the carrier's like, nope, this card's no good. And that does happen. With all these companies, or pretty much most of them, they have a plan where if you don't have your own router, they will send you a router/modem so that you can get internet. And they'll come and they'll put the card in for you. You get it, you plug it into the wall, boom, you got internet. So that is a big thing, and a lot of people opt for that because they don't have their own modems. They don't even know what kind of modem to get. They don't realize that some modems are better than others. So there's a lot of that going on out there. If you're going to go with a modem from a company like that, then make sure that the modem is 5G capable. I mean, that's when you're going to get the fastest speeds, right? And the other problem is if it's a 4G LTE modem, then you're going to be limited on data. There's no way you can expand your data. The only way you can get unlimited data with SIM card data plans is if it's 5G. Otherwise, all the 4G stuff, you're going to be limited. And depending on how much info you need or how much data you need, that could be a problem. Another thing to consider, if you're getting a modem from a company like that, can you attach cables to it? Like if you went out and bought cables, and there's all kinds of oodles of different kinds of cables you can buy, you got to get the right one depending on your router/modem. But can you attach cables to that, run those cables outside, and hook up external antennas? Now, if you're in a rural area or something where you're just not getting that much of a signal even with the actual modem, then that is something that you might want to consider. You might want the ability to send the antenna out and get better signal. Now, a lot of these modems that these companies offer do not have that capability. So these are questions that you would ask and get answered. Another thing to really consider is how much data do you need? If you get a 4G LTE modem, you're going to be limited on data. And maybe you go with a company like Rural 4G and you get like 300 gigs of data a month, which is a lot. It's not enough for me, but it's a lot. And depending on how you use the internet, if you're streaming movies every day, watching some Netflix and Amazon, 300 gigabytes is not going to be enough for you. I can tell you that right now. So it becomes imperative that you understand how much data you need and how much data you're using. Once you determine that, once you understand that, then you can make a better decision about what kind of modem you want, what kind of service you want, and how much you're willing to pay on a monthly basis. I think those are some really good questions that'll help guide you towards making the right decision. For me, I would always have my own modem. And there's a few reasons for that. First of all, these Mofi routers are just incredible. The fact that the two models we reviewed here, the fact that you can actually get the 5 fastest bands off of multiple towers or one tower, whatever the case may be, and pull them into one super signal. There's not a lot of modems / routers out on the market that do provide that capability. So a good business class modem, really, I think if you're going to go down this road is going to be crucial. So for me, I would always bring my own modem because number one, I can probably get a better modem than the company's going to offer me. Number two, let's say I start a service with a company halfway into the month. I'm like, this is crap. I don't even like the service. I'm not getting good service. They put me on AT&T and I should be on Verizon depending on what signal I get in my area. If you have your own modem, it's easy to cancel services, move services, try a different company. And I like that. I like having the control. I like having all the power there. For me, I would always get my own modem. And then all these companies out there, you can bring your own modem. So you don't have to take the modem they're giving you. And I would always go down that road. I know it's expensive. These Mofi routers are like $500. And a lot of people may not have that kind of money to start off. So it's a lot easier to go with a modem provided by the company you're working with. There's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people do it. I'm just saying what I would prefer and why. I know. The big question you have is, if I had to choose between Mofi with rural 4G or Starlink, what would I choose? I want to start off by saying that I have the two very best options you can have. The Mofi router series is amazing. The 5G router that I reviewed is amazing. And Starlink is also amazing. Everybody uses the internet differently. For us, we travel. That means we have special considerations. That means we have to have internet everywhere we go. Every stop we make, I need to have internet so I can work, and we need unlimited internet. So let's break it down like this. If I were living in an area where I had 5G, whether that be in the country, in my RV, or even in the city, if I had 5G cell data coverage, then I would definitely go with the Mofi router, the 5G RM520, coupled with a rural 4G SIM card. That way, I could have unlimited internet. It would be fast and furious, and it would be stable. I could watch live TV, internet calls, whatever I needed to do with the internet. But alas, we're not in that situation. In fact, last month, we used something like 900 gigabytes of data. So you can understand that I need an unlimited data plan. And when you're in an RV, you're always worried about how much water you're using, how much power you're using. So you really start to think in those terms, but the data is no different. I have to have unlimited data. Starlink has worked 100% of the time over the past year, everywhere we've gone, state parks, through trees, so on and so forth. I may not get all the benefits of being able to play live TV or watch football. It'll stutter, it'll buffer, whatever. I would have to live with it because everything in life is give and take. So in our particular situation, if I had to choose, I would choose Starlink. But I sure love that Mofi router. By the way, I will put links and descriptions below about how you can get these routers, how you can get involved with rural 4G, and so on. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.